Alright, hi there, I'm Jason. I'm the lead developer here at s2Member. And this video is for anyone who would like to learn how to use the PayPal Sandbox and how you could use it in conjunction with your s2Member installation. So I'm here in the s2Member configuration options panel, and I'm in PayPal options. And you'll notice here under PayPal account details that you'll have a setting in this area where you can turn the developer sandbox test mode on and off. Okay, when this is off, you're in live mode, and that's how it's defaulted. Okay, so when this is off, s2Member will be communicating through your payment button shortcodes and through your Proform shortcodes. It'll be communicating with the live PayPal servers, okay, because you're not in sandbox mode. When you switch this to sandbox mode, then s2Members, all of s2Member, including everything like the API, the IPN, and the payment data transfer system, anything s2Member is using to communicate back and forth between your site and PayPal will be placed into sandbox mode, and that is to say that nothing actually changes in terms of the way s2Member handles anything, but it's communicating with PayPal through a different API endpoint URL, which is talking to the sandbox servers, which behave exactly, most of the time anyway, they behave exactly like the live PayPal servers do. I say most of the time because I have noticed that the PayPal Sandbox system, their servers at the Sandbox are, they seem to work on them from time to time. So if you notice anything that's like really weird, it could just be the PayPal Sandbox misbehaving. So you might run a quick live transaction just to make sure that, just to do a quick sanity check, because the Sandbox is a sandbox. It's not a production environment. But it does come in really handy. You can test transactions this way. Most of the time, it does work just fine. Okay, so there's two important things to note. When you go into sandbox mode, if you go into sandbox mode, you'll need to make sure that these fields up here are a reflection of your sandbox account. And I'm going to walk you through the creation and the management of the PayPal Sandbox accounts in just a moment, in the next portion of this video. But once you have a sandbox account and you place your s2Member installation into sandbox mode, these fields, all of them, your API credentials here, and your sandbox email address should be used instead. And if you're running test transactions against PayPal standard buttons, then this auto return integration is also an important aspect that needs to be modified. The IPN URL does not change, so you don't have to worry about changing this. But this payment data transfer identity token, this needs to come from your test sandbox merchant account. Okay, so you'll need to update this whenever you're in sandbox mode, and you'll need to update your account details when you're in sandbox mode. Okay, otherwise, everything else remains the same. Alright, in the next segment of the video, I'm going to bring you over here to the PayPal developer site and show you how to create sandbox accounts and how to use these to your advantage. Okay, before I walk through this, I realize I should mention one other thing. Let me bring you back over here to the dashboard. Okay, when you're in sandbox mode, obviously any transactions that take place are not real transactions. You're not going to lose any money. You're not going to gain any money. Any transaction that takes place is going to be communicated back and forth to the sandbox servers, and although there will be a record of those transactions in your test merchant sandbox account that I'm going to show you in just a minute, nothing actually takes place. So I just thought I should mention that. s2Member is not going to handle anything in any weird, abnormal way when you're in sandbox mode either. So that's something to note. The only difference is the API endpoint URLs that s2Member is using to communicate with PayPal. When you're in sandbox mode, it's communicating with the sandbox servers instead. One other thing I should note is that as long as you have not hard-coded any direct links to PayPal.com, in other words, if you are using only the shortcodes provided by s2Member, which is recommended, if you're using PayPal payment button shortcodes, or if you're running Pro, if you're using PayPal Proform shortcodes, which are provided by s2Member, then the changes that I noted here are all that you need to change. In other words, when you come out of sandbox mode, you don't need to update anything else on the site, because the shortcodes and for the payment buttons and the Proforms and everything else is updated automatically when this is set to no. The only things you need to change are these credentials and that identity token I mentioned. Okay? All right, let's come back over here to the sandbox. In order to run test transactions through the PayPal Sandbox, you will need 3 separate accounts. Okay, the first account, it's a little bit confusing. The first account is access to this development environment here at PayPal. Okay, and you'll create that account right here at developer.paypal.com. Just click the Sign Up Now button, and that will give you access to this system. Okay, and I'm not going to create that here. I'm just going to switch tabs because I already have an account. So once you log in here, you'll have access to this development environment. Okay, and now you will create 2 additional pre-configured accounts. So right here from the home area, you'll come right here under Test Accounts and choose Create a pre-configured account. And when you get to this screen, you'll see it's actually very simple. You'll need to create a buyer account. Okay, so you would represent your customer's experience, so you can actually purchase something from yourself as a test buyer. And you don't need a seller account. You just need a PayPal Website Payments Pro account. Okay, and you don't need the seller account really, because if you just set up your Pro account, then a Pro account can do anything a seller can do. A Pro account can do anything a seller account can do, and then some. So you really just need a Pro account and a buyer account. Okay, and I'll skim through these fields here and give you some tips. Here, this really doesn't matter. I mean, just maybe say Pro for the Pro account that you create. This is not actually going to come out like you see it here. PayPal is going to stick a random string of characters after whatever you type here. So just to note that. Any emails that are received through the Sandbox actually come into a special inbox area of this account. You'll have, like, if you click this link, you'll have an inbox area where you can check your email there for any of the fake email addresses that they issue you here. Okay, then you'll just choose your password for this account, and then you'll just leave these as the default. You'll always want to add a credit card to the account. You'll always want to add the bank account to the account. One important thing to note is if you were to choose no here, then your account would be created in an unverified status at PayPal. Adding the bank account, that's the default, adding a bank account will automatically place your test account into a verified state. So that's important. Just set the balance of your account to $9,999. That's the maximum that they allow. That way you have a high balance. Okay, that's especially important for having a buyer account, so you have plenty of money to work with and run test transactions. Okay, then you create the account. And I'm not going to do this here because for whatever reason it takes a little bit. It takes maybe 30 or 40 seconds for the account to be generated. Okay, then you come back and you do it all again as a buyer. And obviously when you create the buyer account, it's even more important to add the credit card because you might need that to run test transactions. Okay, so once those accounts are created, then you can come here to your list of test accounts, and I'm just going to bring you to my existing list. Okay, all of your test accounts will be listed here. And you only need 2. I have 3, but you really only need 2, the Pro and then the personal buyer account. Okay, so this is my test PayPal Pro merchant account. And this is my test PayPal personal buyer account that I purchase things for myself as a would-be customer. Okay, now the first thing I'm going to cover here is the Pro account, because the first thing you need to do before you can run test transactions is make sure that you have all of the credentials in s2Member updated. If you come right here, once you have this Pro account, if you come right here to API credentials, you'll find a list here of the API username, password, and signature details that you'll need to enter as the fake security credentials for s2Member. So I'm going to bring you back over to the dashboard here. You'll see here where I have the Sandbox credentials entered. Okay, when I'm in, I'll put this in Sandbox mode again. I've got all my Sandbox credentials entered here. Okay, and that's where I obtained those from, right here under API credentials. Now, if for whatever reason these are not listed here, I believe that these come in automatically now. If they don't, if they're not here for you yet, even after you've created your test accounts, then here's what I would do. Go back to your list of test accounts. Check off your fake your fake Pro merchant account from this list and enter the Sandbox test site. That will bring you in where you can log into this fake merchant account, and this is going to look exactly like the live PayPal account system looks, except it'll have a big Sandbox banner across the top. And you can configure your profile, and there you can get your PayPal identity token, your payment data transfer identity token, set up your profile, and request those API credentials just like you would in a live PayPal merchant account. Okay, so that's pretty simple. You can it's worth the time it takes to go through and set up the profile in this fake merchant account, because you just do that once and then you can reuse it. So I would walk through the Sandbox, enter the Sandbox test site, go through your profile here as this fake merchant, and set everything up like it needs to be, just like it would be on a live account with you as the merchant. Okay, so once you do that, you come back over here to s2Member, you update all of these details, put your site into Sandbox test mode, make sure you update the identity token here. Okay, and again, the identity token can be obtained by checking this off the list, entering the Sandbox site, going into your profile. Okay, you enable PayPal auto return, payment data transfer inside the Sandbox, and get your identity token. Okay, so that's it. Now you're set up as a test merchant. Okay, so all that's left to do now is to actually purchase something from yourself. And here in this list, you'll find the test buyer account that you created earlier. And right underneath that account, you'll have this little thing that will show you the details of that account. So you don't actually have to enter the Sandbox for this site because PayPal, they make it nice. They just provide the credit card number right here that was added to the fake account and the expiration date. And that's all you'll really need because the address information that you enter, like whenever you're completing a test checkout, the things like the billing address, the zip code, all of that can be pretty much whatever you want it to be. Just enter something fake. Okay, all you need is this number and the expiration date for the credit card. Now, if you're testing PayPal Express checkout or you're testing PayPal standard, website payment standard buttons, then you won't need the credit card. You'll actually need an account. And in that case, you can just use the fake email address that you have in your list of test accounts. Use that fake buyer email address and whatever password you chose whenever you created that account. Okay, and then you can purchase something from yourself, either through a PayPal Pro form with s2Member, or through Express Checkout, or through a standard PayPal button. Okay, that's it. That's how you use the PayPal Sandbox. Any emails that are received at fake email addresses will come into this fake inbox, where you can view those. Okay, just by clicking on them. It's a little hard to read, but you can accomplish it here. Also, I should mention a couple of other areas here. I'll do that in the very next segment. I'll walk through a couple of other things that might help you. All right, just as a little addendum to the previous two segments, I thought I'd just touch on some of the more the finer tuning controls here in the Sandbox. Some things that threw me at first when I first started using this. Maybe it'll help you. This payment review column, almost completely unimportant. If you enable this, okay, put your merchant account into payment review status, which makes it behave more like a live account would. But payment review is it's a service provided by PayPal. It's not really relevant in the context of s2Member because payment review is normally used by merchants who are shipping physical products where PayPal promises that they will do a review of each transaction and give you an okay to ship it. So it enables the payment review process. So it just changes the status of some of your transactions as a merchant. Again, not really relevant to the context of s2Member, where most of the things that you're selling are going to be digital access to a website. Okay, one other thing, this negative test mode, never been able to figure this out. It does not work as advertised for me, so I'm not even going to bring that up in this little tutorial. You can learn more about this at x.com, where the PayPal community has been established using these links. I've never been able to get this to behave the way it's supposed to, the way it was advertised to me. Okay, this is important here, just to note. Whenever I created those test accounts earlier in the previous segment, I did them as pre-configured accounts. And that is really the simplest way. But you will notice here in your list, if you create pre-configured accounts, that the email addresses come out completely jumbled up as fake addresses. Okay, the only way to avoid that, if you want test accounts like I have listed here, where there's actual legit addresses that I use for development purposes only, if you want them to come out with something that you would actually be able to receive mail at a real inbox, like you see here, then you'll have to create your test accounts manually. There's quite a bit more work involved in doing this because you have to actually go through and pick the type of PayPal account that you want to create. If you wanted a Pro account, you'd have to go through and apply for Pro, and then everything has to be set up. The credit card has to be added and all of that. It's not impossible, but it does take a little bit more work. So that's just something to note. One other important thing to point out is that if you're going to do a manual PayPal Pro account this way, you would choose Business here, set up your business account first, and then do the fake application for Pro. Everything is manual in doing it this way. when you do the fake application for PayPal Pro from your business account that you create manually, when you fill out that application, they'll ask you for a social security number, and you should start it out with 3 ones. That was, whenever I did it, it was totally undocumented. I had to get that assistance from PayPal. So just to note that, started out with 3 ones, then the additional numbers after that are irrelevant. For whatever reason, they only accept social security numbers in that application that start with ones. Okay, one other thing I should point out are the test tools. Here there's an IPN simulator. And from this page, you can run simulations against your installation of s2Member. You can grab, if you come over here to the dashboard for s2Member under PayPal IPN integration, your PayPal options for s2Member IPN integration, you can grab that IPN URL that s2Member makes available on your server. And we can use that to run simulations against s2Member. Okay, and here you just choose the transaction type. Web accept would be a buy now purchase. Okay, and then there's some additional tests here, or you can just configure most of it manually by just choosing one and then entering some of these fields. You can't expect miracles here because obviously s2Member is not going to respond as it normally would whenever this is just filled in manually. I mean, there's nothing that's being submitted through this IPN simulator is real. So s2Member on the s2Member side, it's going to be trying to verify things, and it'll be unverifiable because it's not even tied to even a Sandbox test. It's not even tied to a Sandbox test transaction. This is really just to do like a sanity check on your installation. I've seen some site owners use this where perhaps they're having some really strange problems where s2Member, for whatever reason, maybe they have a plugin conflict, it's returning a 503 error, or maybe they have a PHP error occurring somewhere in their site. If you run a test transaction here and you submit this, PayPal comes back and it says, oh, there was a 503 error reported, or I didn't get a 200 OK response from the site, something's very wrong. And you might be able to troubleshoot that here by just repeatedly sending IPNs until you find a way to correct the issue. Whenever you do these test IPNs, be sure to set the custom value to the host domain name. So wherever your installation is at, you would put in your domain name of the site that you're submitting to. s2Member expects the custom value to match the domain of your installation. The item number field here, okay, the item number should be set to like a membership level number. That's what s2Member expects. Perhaps 1 for level 1, 2 for level 2, 3 for level 3. Okay, and s2Member also deals with some additional values in this field, which you can see those if you come over here to your dashboard for s2Member, go to PayPal buttons. One way to see how s2Member deals with the item number field, whenever you generate a PayPal button, you can see the resulting button code. And in this button code, you will see the item number here is just level 1. But this will change slightly. s2Member does use some slight variations. So for example, if I do custom capabilities and I generate the button with that, you see how the item number includes the custom capabilities. So just to note that. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching the video. I appreciate it.